Here with their reaction, Byron York, a Fox News contributor, and Michael LaRosa, former chief of staff to First Lady Jill Biden. Michael, I got a lot of respect for you. I disagree with you on a lot of things, but I also find you to be somebody who will call balls and strikes. How can the world, how can Democrats, this is somebody that Joe Biden calls the smartest person on the planet, Hunter Biden. How can you justify this sort of rhetoric?
Well, a few things. First of all, I have said, my party has been out of control with the hyperbole, the aggressive rhetoric, the Nazis, the fascists, the autocrats, all this stuff. Voters are now tuning out, and they're not even listening to the Democrats anymore because of the alarmism, because of the hyperbole. And I just think that, well, first of all, what Hunter goes on to say is that he's actually referring to the Democratic Party by speaking truth to power. He wants Democrats to turn the temperature up on calling out verifiable lies when MAGA pundits are parroting verifiable lies. Those are his words. That's what he goes on to say. But I don't agree, and I don't condone all of this rhetoric, because, if everybody's fascists, if everybody's Nazis, no one is. And that's where my party has gone, and we've got to stop. It's really a disservice to history and to the people who actually suffered under dictatorships and Nazis and things like that. So that's where I disagree with Hunter. But what he's saying is that Democrats need to turn the temperature up on Republican pundits who are lying, according to him, according to what he goes on to say.
Right, but I appreciate what you're saying here. But Byron, the polling troubled former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg just said he was giving a talk to the Texas Tribune, and this is what he said about Vice President Vance.
If it's convenient for him to be a fascist, he'll be a fascist. Maybe later on he'll go back to being a Silicon Valley Democrat. He'll be whatever he needs to be. This is a guy who went from Donald Trump as Hitler, what he said, to, I have seen the error of my ways. He'll be something new later on.
Michael makes a good point. People tune this stuff out, but then right away, Pete Buttigieg is out there calling the vice president a fascist, saying he'll probably go back to doing that again.
Well, it's troubling to hear it from the former transportation secretary, and it's troubling to hear it from the former president's son. I think what Hunter Biden is saying is that he believes that ugly rhetoric in the United States needs to get worse so the country can hit rock bottom and then start to get better. And he wants this to happen sooner rather than later. And I think what he's doing here, as I listened to it a number of times, is he's applying the logic of his experience as a crack addict, in which you often hear about addicts have to hit rock bottom before they can get better. Well, that's a good thing for the process of recovery, but it's a bad thing for the United States. We don't want to hit rock bottom. We don't want a civil war. We don't want a Great Depression. We want things to get better without hitting the bottom, and I think that's the real flaw in what Hunter Biden is saying.
I think that's true in general, but Democrats, politically, if the country's getting better, it's bad for them. That's the worry, is that they're taking it to this extreme. Katie Couric, she recently said she can't be impartial about Trump. That she recently had Senator Fetterman on her podcast and did her best to get him to denounce the late, great Charlie Kirk. Michael, watch this, and I want to get your reaction to it.
Did you have any issues now in hindsight over some of the things that Charlie Kirk said and some of the rhetoric he used during his life?
I didn't agree with much of it. I didn't closely follow his specific kinds of views. That would never justify what's happened. I'm an absolute free speech guy, and you have the right to say these things, and you definitely also have the right not to get shot.
Michael, explain this to us, because Senator Fetterman, at least to a lot of people like myself, a fairly conservative person, he seems to speak more truth and honesty than somebody like Katie Couric, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with Senator Fetterman. I didn't follow Charlie very closely. I'm kind of a person that tunes out the extremes on both right and left, and it was just never something that I paid attention to. He was not someone I paid attention to. However, I learned more about him in death than life, sadly, and I regret that. I regret not being more open-minded about that. And I appreciate what Senator Fetterman said. More journalists should have more curiosity, more intellectual curiosity about why some of the people on the right feel the way they do, about why voters are voting the way they are, instead of being dismissive about their views or the differences in opinions we have.
Last word to you, Byron.
Well, you started with the idea of the value of chaos in the resistance to the Trump administration. I think that's an extremely important point. First of all, a lot of the chaos actually helps prevent the Trump administration from enforcing its policies. If you're blocking ICE agents, you're blocking the enforcement of immigration law. It also creates a sense that the opposition is so intense that Trump can't win, and then that can create among Trump supporters a kind of a chaos fatigue in which they just want it to stop. Please just make it go away. So I think a number of activists on the left think that's a very valuable thing for them, and you're going to see more of it if they can pull it off.
Yeah, I think it is their strategy. Unfortunately, it's bad for the country. And Donald Trump is winning, and President Trump is implementing his policies, and he had a mandate to do so. That's my take on it. Byron, Michael, thank you for joining us tonight on the Ingraham Angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.